So is my microphone working? Is everyone hearing? Great, love it. I don't hear my voice. I think the way my candidacy is going to work and the way my administration will work is, again, I'm building off of being on 2 consecutive cabinets. I've seen a lot that has happened, and so I want to build upon what I've learned from that. And with that, I think I've seen things that maybe not everyone has seen being in these internal meetings and with administration. A lot of my work is focused on finances, so I know that's a concern that I'm just going to be that person that keeps talking about finances, but it taught me something deeper. It taught me that the challenges faced by student leaders, what they really are, and that every student leader here at Stevens is a student first, and then they are a student leader, and balancing these roles is not easy. I've had difficulty balancing these roles. I've seen it over and over again with cabinet and senators and all these treasurers, and that's why I'm running for president, and that's why I think that my campaign is different. I want to simplify the processes, I want to reduce the barriers, and then create a community where leadership is both accessible and rewarding. It should be a rewarding thing at the end of the day, and right now I do feel like it's a job. It's a taxing thing, and we want to encourage and reward those for creating all those lovely things for campus and for students that I don't know if people realize, and shadowing and showing light on that. And I feel like that's where I differ in that I've just seen that over time, and I've seen so many different e-boards. I've seen about 100 different treasurers come through, and all of them always talk to me about their budgets, and even seeing their budgets and seeing how they've evolved over time has allowed me a lot of insight into a lot of organizations and knowing what they need to support them.
The question was what sets us apart, correct? Okay, something I really want to highlight, and I guess Angelo and Molly touch on this a little bit, are vastly apart in years, I guess. So I'm in my 4th year, I'm at Stevens for 5 years because of co-op. Shane is in his 3rd semester, so opposite ends of the spectrum. And I think there's merit to having an older president in student government. You get to experience a lot. Like Kevin, I was recruited for cabinet in my 6th week of Stevens 2. I was vice president of student interests my 1st year. After that, I moved on to vice president of operations with Paulina. Shout out to Paulina for being here tonight. So, I've seen a lot of areas of student government. I've seen the student interest side, the student organization side. I've seen the internal structure side. I've also been on numerous, what are they called, committees, right? I've been on academic affairs, I've been on rules, most recently campus wellness under Angelo. So, I know a lot about the student government. But being in student government for such a long time, that might make me forget about some of the newer perspectives. That's where Shane comes in, right? So Shane is much more connected to the 1st-year students, the sophomores. He has a very good understanding of what their thoughts are compared to me, right? Versus me, who has a better understanding of what the seniors are thinking of and what the juniors are thinking of. And that's why when we decided to run together, I was really happy about that we had that kind of dynamic aspect between us.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious where me and my opponents stand on the issues and how we're vastly different. So I'm going to go into that. Instead, I'm going to be very straight with you guys. Dictatorships are fun, guys. And honestly, these people and their democratic leanings, like, liberalism has failed. I will make myself into an emperor. We're starting off with consul, first consul for life, and then emperor. And that's it. Like, at the end of the day, democracy has failed. Vote for me. Vote for you.
Thank you, Secret Service, for the enthusiasm. All right, starting with Alex, our second question here. At Stevens, we have historically struggled with student engagement in activities, leadership roles, and general campus involvement. How will you reach the group of students that are traditionally seen as unreachable? Those that might go to class infrequently, aren't involved in activities, or might not even check communications like email, ducklink, etc.
That's a very good question, and it's a hard challenge to tackle, right? We've been trying to do so this past semester, and we've started to make some progress. But I think in terms of the student government helping in that regard, we need to do a much better job of marketing ourselves and showing the student body how we can help. If you go around and ask, a first-year student, hey, do you know what the student government is? They'll probably say they've heard of it. We have a lot of first-year senators. But when you ask them what do we actually do, they might not know. So I think we need to start there. That's kind of like the underlying foundation there. So improve our marketing. When we're able to get out and speak to these first-year students, maybe then we could start to develop a better connection with these students that are deemed unreachable. and encourage them to do some of the things that we're doing. Talk to them about what we're doing, what accomplishments we're doing, what we're promoting, whether it be like school spirit, or we're working to get students to interact with their faculty and their professors. Kind of speak to them in that regard to kind of find out what they want to see, how can we help them individually, but we can't do any of that if we don't market ourselves properly, if we don't talk to the student body.
All right, so my big thing is that we do need to market ourselves better. When I first joined Stevens, I really didn't know what the student government was. They've done a much better job this semester with all of our lovely first-year senators and all that we've done with that, but we have to get ourselves out there. And by doing that, I want to create a great website. I feel like we've talked about the SGA website since I started as a freshman senator. We need to make sure that people know what we are and what we do. When we tell them that we are the SGA and that we tell them, hey, we're working on this academic affairs thing, then all they think is that we do academic affairs the entire time. If we had an SGA website where people could, at their own leisure, go on there, see our bylaws that we love so much, but aren't always readily available to the student body. I also think that what we've started to do and what I hope to continue is with the first-year experience class, I hope to make some inroads there and allow the SGA to come into that first-year experience class, or at least be mentioned as a way of, here's how to get involved in student orgs, explain Duckling to them, get them on the Duckling platform where we have so much valuable information. And once they're on the Duckling platform, they'll get the notifications. They'll know what Duckling is when someone asks them what their event pass is. They'll know how to get it, which I think will allow them and open up the doors to so many things. There's so many organizations on campus. SGA might not be for everyone, and I know that, but at least they'll know that there are other organizations and ways that they can get involved. And indirectly, they'll learn about the SGA when they get on an e-board, when they move up in the ranks of their organization, and that's when we can get in and reach those students that we haven't historically reached. Thank you.
I totally agree with the marketing idea. We need to introduce 2 new concepts to the SGA marketing. Firstly, there's just not enough propaganda, guys. So to that extent, I will be appointing a Chief Misinformation Officer, Tanya Avadia, way back there. Give her a hand. I'm going to be doing that a lot. She'll ensure that on every single person's camera, every single person's screen every morning, there'll be Tanya's face, Big Brother style, telling them exactly what to believe and what to know. Secondly, corporate triangle, guys. We need to make sure that everyone in Stevens knows about the corporate triangle and how to get into the student government, how to rise up to the top of the ranks. And I don't want to get specifics, but y'all know how to get to the top of the ranks.
Could you just repeat the question real quick so we could just focus a little bit?
At Stevens, we have historically struggled with the student engagement in activities, leadership roles, and general campus involvement. How will you reach the group of students that are traditionally seen as unreachable? Those that might not go to class, aren't involved in an activity, and do not check communications like email, Ducklink, etc.?
That's a great question. I find that, I know being in a Greek org, some of the things we do is slide things under all the resident hall's doors. That's a way to reach students that don't check their email or don't talk to many. I do agree with the marketing that has been brought up, and I have even brought up a SGA calendar of some sort to kind of keep everyone up to date on what events we're doing. I think that we really need to work on that. I also plan, like I said in my campaign, I want to work with athletics to promote attendance at games, but I know they're doing giveaways. I want to work more on that. And I think that another way that I've found that I get my friends or people I've just met at Stevens involved is just talking about my experience as a student leader. And I think if we have more of those type of events where people just talk to people, I think that they can see how fun it is and how easy it is to become a leader and become involved and just do what you want to get done here.
Thank you guys for that. So, beginning with Arthur on this one, the SGA has historically struggled to retain senators and at times students in leadership roles. Given that the Senate is now filled for the first time in years, how would you keep members engaged and committed throughout the year?
So objectively, we have a big Senate, right? So the way that we keep people engaged and keep people keep wanting coming back for more is just every week there's one less Senate spot. We have It's like Survivor Island, guys. Like, if you don't make it, you don't make it. I'm sorry. I mean, I think that's going to boost retention. People are going to want to compete. They're going to want to stay in. And we'll have a point system. I know how much Nicholas Smithless, my future Vice President of Governmental Efficiency, Director of Governmental Efficiency, loves quantitative points. For example, like being part of my Secret Service, that's 10 points right there. Hosting an event, that's 5 points. And I think that like the point system, Survivor Island, makes people want to stick around. And we reset every year, obviously. So like 60 more people in next year, and then just me by the end.
Angela.
Okay. I don't know how to top that. Okay, so retention rate in SGA. When I joined SGA, it was not full, and it was never full my first year. So I think a way of keeping senators joining and keeping them interested is, I think Nick did a great way of promoting it when the first years came, like at the beginning of the semester, which I plan to do as well, heavily promote. But I also think for the retention rate side of it, I think that, and we just actually brought this position in, an assistant vice principal of member development, keeping that position up, and having them kind of direct the new senators into growing as a leader and developing as a leader. And I also think little things after Senate, like my VPO, Molly Good, did as chief of staff of like senator bonding events, senator retreat. I think all those are good for retention rate amongst SGA and really amongst orgs in general.
All right, so when I joined SGA, much similar to the previous individuals, it was not full. Our retention rate was terrible. We had people dropping out almost every week. And I think one of the largest problems that we had and that we still struggle with today is, what is the definition of a senator? I think that a senator should be able to be anyone who they want. I think a senator can take a bunch of different roles. I think a senator who wants to be the head of every committee and wants to go to every committee meeting should be able to do that. A senator who just wants to come to Senate every week and participate in their 1 or 2 committees should be allowed to do that. We serve a really important purpose on this campus, but again, we are all students first, and we need to have a fun environment, much like I like to use that pun. And I don't think that what we need to be doing is keeping a point system. I don't think that we need to have this whole threat of impeachment at all times. I think that student government should be a place where people want to be. I think people that want to join should be encouraged to. They should be able to see what we're doing. The public should want to come. And I think by doing that and making it some place that it's an event that people want to come to, that is how you make SGA actually have retention. You don't force them to do things. You don't force mandatory events on people. And I've never forced a mandatory event except the big budget meeting for those on budget. But even that, we are as flexible as possible. We've even expanded that to be across 2 separate days now to reduce the load on those individuals. The whole thing is, again, you're a student first and a student leader second. So let's make it that way and let's keep it fun.
Okay, so we've done a great job with recruitment this past semester. I mean, we filled our Senate, that's awesome. Great job to Rihanna, our Vice President of Recruitment, or Assistant Vice President, I should say. I think we could expand that now. So we did a great job with recruitment, now let's expand to retention, right? So creating a position dedicated to retention. Maybe it's the recruitment position that focuses on retention now, so having retention events, whether they be bonding events like Angela mentioned after Senate. I also think part of the reason why some senators leave is because they don't know their place, they don't know what to do, and maybe they're even like scared to get into it. So some things we could do is do some bonding events at the beginning of Senate, so getting people more comfortable in the room to speak out. Because what I've noticed is those who are comfortable speaking and raising their opinion in discussion tend to be the ones that stick around the most. So if we can encourage people to stick around, I think we can help with retention. Also seeing what our senators need, right? Having more one-on-ones with senators. So I know Shane as VPO would strive to talk with every single senator individually. He does a great job as speaker right now getting feedback. He would just build on that even more. And then also, I think something that keeps people around is leadership positions. Nick did a great job with the assistant vice president roles. I think that's something I would want to keep around and give more leadership opportunities to members in student government. You can really only do one thing for so much. You want to be able to grow, to expand, and leadership opportunities offer a great way to do that.
Thank you, Alex. Starting with Kevin. The SGA has established meaningful partnerships in the past couple of years across the university in divisions or with partners typically not thought of as student-facing, but nonetheless the impact is definitely felt on the student experience. What opportunities for additional partnerships do you see, and what is your philosophy on working with campus partners to ensure students are seen?
Yeah, so the student government, we have our own powers that we've delegated to ourselves, but we don't have the power to is always do everything. When we do that, we need to work with other campus departments. And to even get a meeting with any of those people, they need to know who we are, what we stand for, and we need to have built a meaningful connection with them before we ask them to do something for us. And so Nick, you've done a great job starting to get in with some of those departments that we've never talked to before. Alumni and development and engagement, and we need to have people that go out and talk to them proactively. We should not just be seeking out and finding out who is in charge of a division when we need something from them. And so what I intend to do is delegate out to all the different people in their committees and make sure that if you are on the campus wellness committee, much like Angela, you've done a great job of getting involved in dining, getting involved in who is those leadership positions, and make sure that we have an open dialogue with them so that they can ask us for things and that we can ask them for things. What we can't do, and what I feel like we've done in the past, is as a new cabinet comes in, we forget those people that we've learned. So if elected, I intend to make sure that we have a full list and keep a running list of who we've talked to, what is the SGA relationship with them, keep some notes on what we've learned and what we've learned works with this department and what doesn't, and make sure that we tailor our experiences to each of those departments. Not every department is the same. You can't talk to one person the same way you talk to a different person. You need to make sure that you're tailoring it to what their division does and really know what their department does. I can't, so many times I feel like people go to a department and ask them for something that they'd have no oversight over. And so we need to make sure that we have that clear, who's in charge of what before we go out and try to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Kevin's saying. I mean, for my example, we'll just take campus wellness first. That is there needs to be better and more succession planning in SGA. When I took over campus wellness, my predecessor in the back, Becca, shout out to you for coming. She introduced me to all the respective people that I needed to talk to. But we were talking, and she even noted how I strengthened relationships in some of those offices, and how, as I'm the chair right now, strengthening those relationships with senators to those offices. And that's just something we need to keep track of overall in SGA, and I 100% agree. I think also another example of someone doing this is Evan Panera's, how he's been going to Hoboken City Council and how he's been strengthening that relationship. I think overall, SGA has done a great job so far strengthening relationships, and I think that we should continue to do more and keep track of what everyone does, like Kevin said, and keep talking.
First of all, I'm not actually going to win this thing, so I don't mind being the bad guy. Just don't be on your phone, guys. Be attentive. These are people that want to lead you. That's just the first thing I want to say. Not even answering the question, just politeness and respect, right? In terms of relations, we shouldn't have relations. The university is worthless. They don't do anything. I think this is clearly, we are a student government. We are the government of Stevens. We shouldn't have faculty. We should have, freshmen just teaching thermodynamics. Obviously, come on. We are clearly better. That's just it. We're built different. And don't be on your phone, guys.
All right, I'll sound like a broken record if I just repeat everything Kevin and Angelo said, because I genuinely feel the same way, right? Maintaining those relationships that have been built this semester, last semester, and translating them over to the next one so we don't have to start fresh. So, getting a transition meeting with, Nick and, whoever his connections are, and Olaf and his connections, etc. Something I also want to highlight though, because we talked a lot about internal connections, but also external connections with other agencies in Hoboken, right? So, for example, one of the projects that I'm currently working on is creating reusable containers, right, to-go containers in our dining locations. We're doing that with an external partner, Redish. By building connections to other companies that'll help market ourselves, it'll bring us new ideas, new perspective from outside sources. I had my own idea with how we could pursue this initiative, but then talking to others that are not in our network, it just gives new perspective and brings new light. So I want to continue to do that with not just one company for sustainability or for campus wellness, but for all of them. And I also was going to bring up, Angela beat me to it, but I do admire, Evan, what you've done with the Hoboken Community Council and the Hoboken government, and that's something I would love to continue working on. So great job, Evan, for that.
All right, thank you so much. So before this question, I would like to note to all the candidates that we do have current professional staff members in the room. So we're very dedicated to what they do.
I love that. That was a joke.
Student-faculty interaction is both a strategic goal of the university and has been a priority for the SGA for the past year. How will you continue these efforts and expand upon what's been done to connect students with faculty inside and outside the classroom, starting with Arthur?
Jesus, man, how am I supposed to make a joke out of that? All right. I can be truthful? No, but Nick hasn't asked for a fact yet. So here's what we're gonna do. I have a joke, so I'm gonna take a selfie of all of us and post it on my Instagram. Is that cool with you guys? Is that chill? Okay. Here we go. Hold on. We're doing a 0.5 because I told you. There we go. That's my response. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Angela.
This is one of my favorite things is student-faculty interaction because, like I said, one of the things I'm running on is campus culture, and I think a big thing under that is relationships, and that is one of them. So for student-faculty interaction, we already have a typo program, which is taking professor out, but I also want to strengthen that. I want to extend that to taking your advisor out, whether it be your academic or faculty advisor. I want to spread that to maybe give some vouchers to the dean, to maybe take some of the deans of the schools to take some of the students out to get to know them and get to know their standpoint. I think overall that would form a better connection as I've been on the Dean's Student Advisory Board of the business school, meeting the dean, the new one who just actually got hired, and realizing he's so student facing and he loves student input. I think that could be something very beneficial to the student body and the faculty and staff. I also think it's great to keep working with them because they love student input. I mean, I'm not always in the second floor UCC, but I'm there pretty often, and Molly's there so much. And I love talking to that office though, because even Danielle has told me personally, she loves hearing how the students feel and hearing the input. And when I'm working with RDS and hearing input about the dining and housing on campus, they love to hear that input. They just reached out to us for a meeting next week to talk about that specifically. So I think just overall, just continuing to strengthen the relationships, continuing the typo program, extending it. Also another aspect of how I want to extend it is, sorry.
All right, so the student-faculty engagement has been something that we've been working on for a really long time. I'm so glad to have the typo program, and I think it's been a great success, so definitely continuing that. The only issue I have with the typo program is that it only gives that one student that interaction with that faculty member. We want to try to do as a student government as much as possible, as quickly as possible. I don't know if many know, but there is a faculty senate, much like the student government. There is a faculty version. We do need to interact with them a little more. They are, sometimes wanting our input, and we might not always be there. And so I will make sure that we have connections to that, so that faculty know what SGA is. A lot of times students are scared to even go up to their faculty and ask questions about it, and faculty don't know what SGA is either. And if they knew what it was, I think that that conversation wouldn't be as difficult. And if more professors know about it, and more faculty and staff know about it, they're going to want to get involved. We've had issues and questions in the past about what is the role of a faculty advisor in a student organization, and I think that we have to revamp that. We're on the process of doing that, but we need to do more. If faculty are at these student events interacting with students, naturally they're going to get closer with those students, and they're going to talk about it even inside the classroom. I've had great conversations with my professors, even talking about finances. All of them have been so interested in how student orgs work. Even when they were an advisor, they had no idea. I also do serve on the Business Deans Advisory Board as well. Getting in contact with the deans, they always want to collaborate with the SGA, and just extending that invitation. They don't want to be the ones that come to us. We need to go to them and make sure that we are putting ourselves out there. Thank you.
I think one of the issues with why we don't have maybe the best engagement with our faculty is because sometimes our faculty are looked at as just that. They're just the professors, right? We don't look at them in a way that we look at ourselves or other peers, stuff like that. So being able to shed light to this idea that the faculty are also people, we can also bond with them, right? We can have conversations with them. For example, so the MECI department, they do this great thing. They have a town hall with all their professors, and students are able to come and you sit at round tables and you interact. That's awesome. I was able to talk to my professor about things that are not related to the class, right? So something Shane and I would want to do is encourage more departments to do that, right? Whether it be a large event like a town hall, or more one-off events like a coffee chat, kind of like the coffee with clients, some of you might be familiar, but doing that with professors. And then also we could do a better job of the SGA of showing that professors are not just professors, right? So maybe doing interviews with them, spotlights with them. I know this is something that is being talked and discussed about right now, but really pursuing that, really putting them in the light that's not just, they did this research and they teach this class, but making them seem more friendly.
All right, to Kevin. Experience and engagement with the staff, faculty, and administration is an integral part of being SGA president. What experiences do you have working with current and former administrators that would benefit you in this role, and what impactful projects have given you the experience needed to succeed as president?
So finances are always an interesting discussion. The SGA does have the sole authority of allocating out the student activity fee. How does a student do that? The student has to work with a lot of different departments. I have had the pleasure of working with so many talented individuals in student life and student affairs. Much of them I've seen more of as friends and colleagues, and they've given me that same respect back, and that's what I've loved about Stevens. I've cultivated those relationships with people I never thought that I would talk to. I've talked to the CFO of Stevens, I've talked to people on the cabinet, and much of those are through events and through things that have happened with finances in order to get things done. One of the major things that I was able to accomplish was increasing the student activity fee. That was a big feat. We had to go all the way up to the Board of Trustees and have them approve this increase. It's a phased-in increase over the next 2 years, and with that, we're going to be increasing our SAF by almost doubling it in terms of just what we're able to give out to students. And in learning and doing that, I've interacted with, I can't even count how many people. But I think what's most important is that I didn't always interact with those people just because I needed something from them. I interacted with them because I wanted to know about them. I made friendships with them, to the point now where I can message them on Microsoft Teams now, and they'll respond back, and we're just talking about nice, pleasantries. And doing that, I think, is what makes you actually able to get stuff done. Because again, if you just go to someone and ask them to do something for you, and they don't even know who you are, they're not going to do that for you. They have to have a personal incentive to do that for you. You need to know who to talk to. And that's, I think, what's been so important.
Jeremy's question.
Experience and engagement with staff, faculty, and administration is an integral part of being SGA president. What experiences do you have working with current or former administrators that would benefit you in the role, and what impactful projects have given you the experience needed to succeed as president?
Great, okay, so I think this is where my diversity in student government really comes into effect here. So like I said earlier, I started off being a senator, right? After that, I was vice president of student interests, so I got to connect with a lot of members of student life and student affairs. After that, I was vice president of operations, so continued building those relationships. That was a back-to-back cabinet term, so I just kind of was able to build off of that, like I said. And then throughout that time, I've worked on many different projects in that span. So, for example, one notable one, and I'm glad Becca's here, one that we worked on together was The Pond. It's a student section in Canavan. It was a whole year long, right? You're required talking with so many different areas, right? It required talking with athletics, you're required talking with the marketing department at Stevens. So, that's just one example of how a large-scale project like that interacts. Some other projects is the composting pilot program that's going on, that connects sustainability office, it connects residential education office. I can continue going on. Right at my second semester, I held a rally for Ukraine when Russia invaded Ukraine. So that required connecting with different groups on campus, campus police, making sure the event would be safe, again, student affairs. So through all these different projects that I've worked with, I've been able to meet many different people in respective offices, and I've maintained those relationships. I haven't been on cabinet this past year, but I've still had coffee chats with them, still sent an email, still caught up, and continued to work on some of these projects.
Let's get back to the campaign points, guys. Slides. zip lines. So we have IKEA Man, we have Blue Roof Passion over here. He's from Sweden, if you guys didn't know, but Blue Roof Passion, so IKEA Man. So he's one guy we're helping. We're gonna have Angelo Nero is gonna be our Assistant Vice President of Campus Development, in the sense that he will have a sledgehammer and dynamite and will be tearing things out, like Davis. And we're gonna work very closely with Mob Mafia. Thank you. Mob Mafia, who is our current VP of Facilities here at Stevens, in order to build these slides and build these zip lines. And I don't know, someone's gonna pay for it, but it's I don't want to go there, so I'm gonna stop right there.
Alright, so being a second year, I've actually accomplished a lot and worked with many different offices. So I've worked with FSL and OSL for my LGBT and FSL event, but then I've also worked with different offices such as RDS and Office Student Support for dining and Feed the Flock. I've also kind of, nurtured these relationships, and I've had several of them reach out to me over the summer or as I was coming back to campus this year, asking just to have a chat with me, go for coffee, talk about, I remember Lydia from the Office of Student Support literally just went, I want to know about your dreams and aspirations, she was so caring. And that's how all the staff, and faculty and admin are here once you form relationships with them. I think that furthermore, I could strengthen these relationships even more, and I could even grow more relationships. I just got a new advisor as Campus Wellness Chair as next initiative to have all the chairs have advisors now, and I'm continuing to strengthen them so I can continue to be a better leader.
Thank you. This past spring, nationally, students organized around political, spiritual, and global causes in numbers not seen in years. These demonstrations have extended to Stevens, with a recent presidential election and ongoing global conflict that may spark more demonstrations. How will you protect and support a student's right to demonstrate around a cause they're passionate about? Starting with Alex.
Okay, this is great. So, the First Amendment of the Constitution allows us to have free speech, right? Arthur, I'm sure you'd love to touch on this later, not right now. So we need to be able to respect that on our campus. Our campus is very diverse. We have many different opinions and thoughts going around. We need to allow everyone to express what they want to do so in a respectful way. I am definitely not afraid to do that. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the first things I did was held a rally for Ukraine. That is taking a stance, right? So by me doing that, I would hope that others can see that I would encourage them to do so, right? There was a demonstration very recently the other day, which was amazing that our campus is allowing it to do so. And I think one of the key points here is that just making sure that we're doing it in a very respectful way. I know I already said that, but ensuring that everyone's voices are heard. Yeah.
I think that college campuses always historically have been that place where you always read about in history about being that first initiative where protests spark from. I feel like it's an integral part of the college experience. Here at Stevens, our student population is a little different than a liberal arts college, just a little. But again, we have those students that have those aspirations and want to display those ideas. Stevens has great policies in that we do allow those demonstrations. They do have to go through an approval process. Every organization that has done a demonstration has went through that process. But again, the SGA is going to be there to support any student organization that wants to demonstrate and wants to organize. We do have to work with campus partners in order to make that a safe and respectful environment for everyone. We work very closely with student affairs. Those are relationships that I've worked with many, many times over and over. And just being able to connect those student organizations with the right people that can help them make those demonstrations happen. Every demonstration is going to have two sides. I think that we have to make sure that everyone is always heard on their issue. And I think Stevens does a pretty good job at that. We are not a political institution in that we are a not-for-profit. So we do have to make sure that we are always abiding by every legal policy and standard to ensure that we do maintain our tax list status. We are a not-for-profit. So that is a big thing. Always working with administrators, making sure everyone's voice is heard. And yeah, just making sure that at the end of the day, if a student is going to want to have their ideas heard, we want to give them the platform that they can safely, effectively, and respectfully do so.
Alright, and now I'm gonna sound like a broken record because I do agree, and I mean, like I can even say, I mean, I have like family that's Ukrainian, so like I wasn't even on campus when you did that, Alex, but thank you. And I remember like we did just hold the SJP rally the other day, but and I remember a couple weeks ago when we were moving them to step 4 in SGA, I remember I asked them, because when you're moving an org to a step 4 org, they stay a step 4 org, and you got to think about stuff like this, like, is the conflict always going to be there? What are you going to do after it's done? And I asked them that. I was like, what are your movement, like what's your next move after if this is done hopefully soon? And they said, well, then we want to teach the history. And I loved that answer, and that's why I voted yes to approving them to be the next step in our work process. I think that holding your right to, protest peacefully and rally for what you think is right is something that's super important, especially in college, and as you're finding your voice, as I found my own voice in college, and I think it's really fundamental. So, yeah.
Arthur, maybe I can cash in on my serious coupon.
I was actually going to be serious about this no matter what, because there's a low-key joke in here, but I don't want to make it. In all seriousness, I come from, for those of you who don't know, I'm from San Francisco, I'm from California. I grew up in a very, very liberal town. I've been saying a lot recently after the election. I grew up thinking that I was very conservative. Turns out I'm a Democrat, guys. I don't know how that happened. I remember texting my friends from back home. I was kind of shocked. But growing up, I very much felt as if I couldn't have discussions with my peers. It felt as if every single time that any contentious issue was brought up, there was the one right opinion brought up by 5 people, and no one else left out an opinion. And so I think that the number one goal is to just generate helpful discussion. I think on vast majority of issues that people are like contentious on in the United States, there's a middle ground that most people agree on. Like gun rights, abortion, Palestine, Israel, everything, I think. At the end of the day, they are extremes, but at the end of the day, the vast majority of people, the silent majority of, not the Republican kind, like the silent majority of people who aren't shouting about extremes, are in the middle, and they all agree about things. And as long as we have discussions and we talk about stuff, we kind of figure out that most people agree on stuff, and we can work towards better solutions.
Thank you guys so much for your answers. This is our final question before we get to our closing statements. So this is addressed to Angelo. There is an overwhelming majority of students that feel overwhelmed, stressed, and anxious. What could we do to ensure students are feeling accomplished, proud of their achievements, and that they belong in our community?
I love this question. We were just talking about this in my committee meeting yesterday. I think a way that we can do this is really just, personally for me as a student leader, I always tell everyone in my fraternity, everyone at SGA, I said this, I believe in Campus Wellness Committee yesterday, I think we all need to spread the message of you're doing a lot. No matter how little you think it is, you're doing a lot, and I think that message needs to be spread out more across across campus, because we were talking honestly about how the library was so, boring, and it was no color, there's no posters or anything. And I was like, honestly, just some posters or something saying no matter if you were there for an hour or 5 or 30 minutes, you did something. And I think everyone needs to hear that more often. And I think that is something impactful that needs to be said, especially with how bad mental health can be on college campus. I've been a victim to it. I assume everyone has been a victim to it here and there. I think that is something that we could do. I think we also need to widen support programs for student leaders. And me and Molly have talked about this, about leadership advising, but also leadership support. And making sure that everyone feels that they're supported, that people are telling them you're accomplished, you've done things, and you should be proud of yourself no matter what.
Obviously, point systems, guys. I think that I'm adding the 6 things to my campaign. We're adding points to everything. You get an A, you get 10 points. You get a B, you get 5 points. We're really going to go on a really hard-ass scale. Might as well just full on send it. Student org president, 100 points, and a $10,000 scholarship. We're gonna add some money incentive to this. We're really going to spike stress and cortisol levels. We're gonna make life way harder for everyone. It'll be a good time, and I hope to see everyone here at CAPS a lot because of it.
Okay, Alex.
Yeah, okay. Moving on from that. I think really what we need to do ultimately is recognize our students more. So giving them more credit where credit is due. You know, we're all in the same boat. We need to recognize that. So different ways we could do that. I think this past week, the Kindness Week, was an excellent demonstration of giving back to our community, telling each other that, you know, we're all here for each other, being kind. So that's something that I definitely want to continue and build upon and make Kindness Week even better than it was this semester. Something that Pauline and I were very passionate about last year when we ran together was mental health awareness. So that's something I definitely don't want to forget about, but promoting our mental health resources like CAPS and all the others, encouraging students to go to these resources, because sometimes there's a stigma around it, like maybe their students are afraid to get out there, but if we can encourage them, if we could push them, if we could show them that we're going to it, you know, that's a great way to get them to go to it as well. And then also, so in terms of like actually stress, another thing that was brought up in the campus wellness meeting yesterday was feeling more of a connection to those around you. And this ties into the faculty-student interaction a little bit. But again, with the professors, you know, you have a conversation with them, it's very like academic-based. Being able to talk to your professor in a much less stressful environment, maybe you're studying in the library and they come around and hand out a cookie or something, be like, hey, how's it going? How's the studying going? Like encouraging things like that, I think will help alleviate some stress from our students.
I think that the university has done a really good job very recently in improving this. I think that the first year experience course is finally exposing a lot of students to those resources that are available to them. College is a stressful transition. When I came into college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I felt that imposter syndrome that I think many of us do. So I think that first off, we need to make sure that every student knows that they do belong here. They got in here. This is a rigorous school, but it's not a competitive school once you're here. It's a collaborative environment. Making sure that we ensure that that collaborative environment is still extending even outside of the classroom. It's not a competition for everything. We're all here to get a degree. We're all here to get a great job after it, and that's why we chose Stevens, and we chose that to have a great experience here. I think that student-faculty interaction becomes a big part of this. When faculty know what students are doing outside of the classroom, I think it changes their entire interaction with students. When I've told professors about what I do and they've learned about what students do, they're way more apt to be a little more flexible. When they realize that, when they come to these student events and they see hundreds of students planning these huge, large events, they're like, oh wow, maybe my 8 a.m. test that's the day after Thanksgiving maybe doesn't need to be that. I think that it's a big deal, and I think that also the first year experience, letting students know when they are in stress and when they do come across that's normal, here's what you should do. I think student leaders run into that all of the time. We've talked many times about even instituting a group CAPS therapy session with just student leaders to talk about the issues that are facing student leaders. It's stressful, especially during certain times of e-board elections, when budgets are due, and we have to do a good job of making sure that e-boards realize that they're not alone. There's 100 other organizations, and there's 100 other treasurers that also have that.
All right, thank you guys so much for your answers to those questions. We are going to start with our closing statements. Remind this is also a 90 seconds, and this one we are going to start with Arthur.
How phenomenal. Okay. In all seriousness, I think it's been said a lot. This is our first contested election in a while. Within the SGA, I think people who are SGA adjacent, I think it's fairly well known fact that it's gotten very contentious and a bit toxic in the organization. I've certainly felt it. I felt it for weeks, even long before like nominations was happening. And so me and Sebastian were just kind of running, just to prove that like at the end of the day, this is a student government candidacy, right? Like at the end of the day, I saw that there shouldn't be meme wars going around. There shouldn't be any kind of like toxicity. And at the end of the day, Nick's created a very fun environment for all of us. I think is the biggest part of this campaign, of his administration. And I think that the main objective for everyone is that that maintains next semester and next year. And so yeah, so I'd like to thank everyone for tolerating me. Thank you to all the people who like put up with me naming them. And Olaf, Nick, I'm officially resigning from the race. I'm out. Vote Kevin. Yeah, peace out.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Okay. All right. Sorry. So something that I'd like to highlight that really can't be put into like a scale or put into, you know, accomplishments is really the passion I bring to SGA, and I want to like thank Becca for pointing this out to me because it's something I didn't even think to talk about, is just how much passion I bring, because she noted how I always bring my 100% and how I'm always willing to help no matter what. And I want to use that passion, the passion I've used to accomplish so much in my very brief time here, and I want to use that to improve campus culture, student-faculty interaction, and so many more, the student experience, so much more, and all of you can help me with that. And I think doing that will lead to an entire student body having a fun and better time at Stevens, and I think this will lead to all of us being more successful. Thank you.
I just want to say that I'm so excited that we have this many people running for SGA and that we're just at this point. It's something that I've wanted since when we joined and when I joined SGA. I mean, I think there were like 5 people on the budget committee when I joined. We're at 25 now. The fact that this many students are even involved and wanting to be in it is great. But I just want to talk about just the fact that I'm running for president because I want to simplify the processes. I want to reduce the barriers. I want to make it easier to be a student leader. I want to improve the student experience. And I want to use the knowledge that I have gained through my unique perspective about being on cabinet 2 consecutive times and seeing the different leadership styles, and especially under this current cabinet that I think has done a lot for the SGA. I also just want to shout out Tanya. I'm not going to do this alone. Won't be able to do it alone. I will surround myself with the best people possible if elected. And I just want to make it clear that, you know, I'm here and I want to dedicate everything that I can to make this a better experience. And after all, we get things done, and we're going to have some fun along the way.
All right, awesome. Well, this was great. Thank you all, Nick, for moderating, and the rest of the candidates for being up here. Like Kevin said, this is awesome that we're having this contested election. It really shows how much we have grown. And student government, it's a special place, right? It's awesome. I've met some of my closest friends here, right? Paulina sitting on the audience, one of my best friends. We ran together last year, and a week from now we're going to be running a marathon together, right? And I didn't know Paulina before the SGA. And I want those relationships to happen for everyone within the student government, right? You know, there's a lot of external stuff that we're going to accomplish too, but even internal, right? Creating a beautiful community inside so that people can really develop those relationships internally. And then I think it's no secret that we're all passionate up here about the student government, right? We all want to see it succeed. We all want to make it better. So when voting this election, I think it's important to ask you a question, maybe a step up, like, who do you want to be in the president position besides someone that's just passionate, right? You look for qualities in a leader like someone that is able to listen to you, someone that's able to, be a strong delegator, someone that's responsible, someone that's confident in themselves. So consider these questions. These are qualities that I strive to achieve every single day and at all of my actions. So hopefully you can see that, and when the election time does come around, I hope you will all vote for Alex and Shane. So thanks everyone for being here, and good night.
All right, well, thank you all, or to the candidates first, and then obviously to our audience who's still with us. But seriously, thank you for attending this evening's debate. I have a note similar to the sentiment that was shared above, but I hope that all the students and general audience members have gathered insight to what our candidates are looking to do, and hopefully you've learned a bit more about them as people. And I acknowledge that while elections can be divisive, I'd like to seriously commend all of you for being involved members of our community. There are 4,000 undergraduate students on this campus, and you 3 I guess now, have stepped up to the plate to be the advocate for the student body. Again, these elections can be divisive, but you're part of this community who have brought such care and attention to supporting the greater good of the students. For that, I'm personally inspired and incredibly proud of you all. But I also feel compelled to remind you that regardless of the outcome of this election, we all have an obligation not to work in opposition, but collaboratively to support our students. Good luck with your campaigns, and I hope that you all bring out our community to vote and get engaged in this election. So thank you, and thank you for your participation this evening.